Nuclear talks just wrapped in Geneva with no breakthrough, and now a retired four-star general is warning the US may need to get very serious with Iran. Let's watch this clip first, then I'll explain what's really going on.
Here we go. The third round of U.S.-Iran nuclear talks are being described as positive by a senior U.S. official, but so far there's still no deal. Tensions have been rising overseas, with new reports revealing President Trump is being briefed on military options. Let's bring in retired four-star general, Fox News contributor, strategic analyst, and chairman of the Institute for Study of War, General Jack Keane. General, how much detail are you going for when it comes to these talks? What should we be focused on? Do you think there's any validity to them?
Well, I think the people who are involved in talks always see them as positive because they continue to talk, and that in itself is positive. But the reality is, when you look clearly at what Iran is and what they represent, you've got to come to the conclusion that they're very unlikely we're going to achieve anything. Why is that? Because Iran does want to recover its nuclear program, no matter what lies and pretense they're putting forward in these talks. Number two, Iran clearly is already recovering its ballistic missile program, and that is one of the drumbeats that's beating here in terms of what damage they could do to Israel and also to the United States. Number three, Iran is already continuing to support the proxies in the region, which means at some point they will be upgunned again with a potential to attack Israel. Those are the things that are truly happening, and we've already had the evidence that Iran is willing to kill as many people as it takes inside their country to put down any idea of a protest or an internal regime change. That is who we're dealing with. And what does that actually present to us then? An historic opportunity, because Iran is vulnerable and weak, weaker than they've ever been in the 46-year history of the regime. Right now, today, that gives us up an opportunity to put in place a comprehensive joint operation with Israel to really set the conditions for a regime change. Now look, President Trump is a peace president. There is no doubt about it, given what he's done over 13 months on resolving conflicts that were too challenging for others to resolve, and particularly the United Nations, which doesn't show up at all when it comes to peace. But here's the difference. This president is willing to use force to achieve a peaceful outcome. And I believe that is the path we are on right now.
Do you believe
that would be a combined... Go ahead.
Do you believe there are some people within the administration that don't want to take the risk, and they say, well, there's a chance of casualties, there's a chance of Iraq War II type of outcome, and we shouldn't take the risk? Or do you think that there's some of that friction within the Trump administration?
Yeah, certainly, and there usually is in any administration. There's always folks who are going to look at it and just focus on the negative, adverse consequences, and then that leads them to what? To do nothing, to do nothing here, and to give Iran another 10 years to impose their will on the region and continue to destabilize it. We've been with these guys almost 50 years now. Do we really want to do that when the vulnerability and weakness is right in front of us? The historic opportunity to stabilize this Middle East once and for all, to have the Abraham Accords kick in, and we already know those countries would be willing to do that if we get Iran off the board here. That is a huge opportunity. To do nothing is to continue this. Makes no sense. So, yes, there always will people who are going to advocate, well, there'll be casualties. 2, the operation is going to be complicated. 3, there's not a clear definition in terms of an end state. And listen, when you conduct even an operation with a ground force to conduct decisive operations to change the regime, as we did in Panama in '89, Haiti in '94, Afghanistan in 1, and Iraq in 3, there's always ambiguity in terms of what follows after that. And you can't let that distort what the opportunity is in front of you here.
General Jack Keane says the talks feel positive simply because they're still happening, but he argues Iran is dead set on rebuilding its nuclear program, ballistic missiles, and terror proxies. With the regime weaker than it's been in 46 years after last year's strikes and domestic unrest, Keane sees a historic opportunity. He's calling for a joint U.S.-Israel campaign targeting leadership, nuclear sites, and military infrastructure to set conditions for regime change. He says President Trump is willing to use force to achieve real peace. The facts line up. The third round ended with claims of progress, but major gaps remain on enrichment and sanctions relief. Technical talks move to Vienna next week. Meanwhile, 2 U.S. aircraft carriers, including the Gerald R. Ford, are in position, and Trump is being briefed on military options. Here's where this gets dangerous. There's real pushback inside the administration over casualties and another Iraq-style mess. Iran can still hit back through proxies and threaten shipping lanes. Bottom line, Iran's weakness creates a real opening, but any move toward force carries serious escalation risks with no easy exit. The next few weeks are critical.